Hi, my name is Thomas Kuret. I'm a fifth year MD PhD student at Thomas Jefferson University, and I received the Predoctoral Fellowship in Drug Discovery. It started when I was pretty young. My dad is a scientist and my grandfather is a scientist too. So I grew up taking things apart and trying to figure out how, not necessarily to put them back together, but how they worked. And my parents helped me channel that into something that was a little more productive, which turned out to be a big interest in science and how things work and how we can understand those mechanisms, hopefully to make good in the world and better understand how we as human beings work. I started my real scientific career in undergrad when I went to UC San Diego. And there I got an unpaid internship at the Salk Institute. And I had a great mentor who really encouraged me to pursue not just being in the lab where I was learning these really cool techniques, but to engage in teaching. And I became a teaching assistant and then a lecturer at UCSD during my time at Salk. And I started to understand that by synthesizing all of these things together, if I could teach, and I really enjoyed teaching, if I could keep my research going, and then if I entered into medicine, I could combine all three together and be the triple threat. So I study Parkinson's disease and specifically the cells that die in Parkinson's disease. It's a movement disorder where people get discoordinated movement and have a variety of symptoms that tend to progress over time. And although it's the second most common neurodegenerative disease in the United States, with more people getting sick every year, we don't have any treatments or drugs on the market that can actually prevent people from getting sicker. What we study are mechanisms to actually stop the disease from getting worse or even starting in the first place by protecting the brain cells that are most vulnerable and die early on in the disease process. So for example, we study mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell and responsible for creating energy that the cells consume to survive. And we know that certain exposures like COVID-19 or alpha-synuclein, which accumulate in the brain, can cause these brain cells to fail to produce new mitochondria or even produce the energy they need to survive, ultimately causing those brain cells to die. And we actually study a protein called GUCY2C in the gut, which exists in the brain as well and is capable of protecting these cells by making new mitochondria and essentially restoring the brain's ability to produce this energy that it needs to survive. And so we think that we can utilize this protein with drugs that already exist on the market and the PhRMA Foundation's funding to show that these drugs can actually prevent and protect these brain cells from dying by stopping the inflammatory cascade caused by all things around us in our day-to-day life that ultimately lead to Parkinson's disease. Yeah, research can be really difficult to persevere through. It's a lot of trial and error in the beginning, and sometimes you get emotionally attached to your experiments that don't work. But one thing is to keep in mind that there are always more experiments. Science, I don't think, gets enough credit for being incredibly social. We have our mentors, we have our peers and our collaborators. And at the end of the day, we talk together, we brainstorm, we try to troubleshoot. And if we can't fix something, we console each other and we move on to what the next idea can be. I think it's also really important to find that kind of fulfillment in all parts of life as well. If that's fitness or a hobby like cooking, both of those for me are really important. And maybe I had a bad day in the lab. I know I'll get back on it next week, but I can feel really good about the other things I'm doing in my life too, that help me stay afloat and positive looking towards the future. If I had advice for young people who are starting off their scientific careers or trying to decide if science is the right path for them, I would say get involved as early as possible. Science always needs help, and science is built on mentorship. And that means that there are people out there who are willing to teach you and guide you and help you discover if this is the career path you want to take. If that means you're in high school, the group I work with right now has 4 high school students who are interning with us for the summer. They are learning some very, very basic skills, and really what it comes down to is whether they enjoy the atmosphere and the pursuit of science. And when they go on to the next step in college, I would encourage them to do the same thing, to look for local research opportunities either at their institution or at a nearby institution, because science is always looking for more help, and there has always been a really strong willingness to teach those who are going to be the next generation. I want to be the triple threat. I really enjoy being in the lab where I have this creative freedom. I can ask questions that are high risk, high reward, where I feel I can make a bigger difference from a lab discovery than I could ever make by seeing as many patients as I could all throughout the day. That being said, I also feel like I could make a huge impact by teaching the next generation of students, if those are grad students, medical students, or undergrad teaching. I find it really fulfilling to talk to the next generation of scientists or question askers and hear hear their perspective on things because it always changes how I look at the world and how I think about science as well. And then also at the end of the day, I want to care for patients. It's so fulfilling to interact with people on a day-to-day basis, to remind yourself why you're chasing these scientific questions. Why it is so important for me to continue my work is because there are people right now who need that kind of help, who don't have access to it yet. So I really would love to do all three in an academic position, having my own lab with teaching responsibilities and also clinic responsibilities, where I can connect with really all three populations of people that I think are really important for my work.